Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. So I'm going to do a talk and a reading today. Feels like a lot has shifted in the last few days. And so it's kind of interesting how this came through for me, the shift. It was on Monday, which is interesting because after I had this experience, which I'll share, Alora Hazel was writing about how she had felt this huge timeline shift on Monday. And it was around the time that she was feeling, it was right around the time that I was having this experience. And there were all these other people writing and saying they had experienced the same thing. So this huge shift from Monday, but there's a little bit of decoding in it that I want to share. So I was messaging I had reached out to a friend of mine, a soul sister, and we were leaving each other messages back and forth because we were in different towns. And during that, another soul sister of mine was leaving me messages and writing to me. So while I was waiting for the first person to they'd be recording something, and I'd be waiting for I'd go to the other one, right? So I was back and forth between these two, and then there was another one. So three of my main sort of anchoring, decoding, powwow type of sisters, all of us coming into the same time, which I always notice. I always notice who comes in at what times. And certainly there's some people that I commune with a lot, but other people that it, weeks or even months can go by. So I always notice when there's, one of them that comes in, because it signifies to me that something's anchoring or we're moving through something. So the fact that there were four of us at the same time meant something to me. But I noticed this theme amidst all of our conversations, and it was a theme around safety. And so the summary of all of it, and I later, shared it with each of them, right? How we were all kind of weaving together, right? Weaving together, and how spirit does that, it'll bring in as many, and these are such big energies that we're integrating and moving through right now. Just you might feel that you're juggling so many things at once, right? And it's coming in on all these different angles. And so, which is interesting because I think that's indicative of a timeline jump when you kind of feel like you're whoa, what's going on? You're driving one of those wide load trucks or something, right? It's kind of what it felt like. But the theme around the safety and the summary was basically that when we're in alignment, this is what we're talking about all the time in these readings. What we were talking about in the last reading, we had the Queen of Wands and the Queen of Wands with the Empress in the middle. And so it was this huge message of everything being magnetized in when we have our alignment and our focus and intention and choice on our alignment with our divinity, with our unique soul signature as number one priority, then everything else can flow in, right? And so that's what we were decoding with the energy of safety, and how a lot of us, obviously, there's a lot of temptation to feel very unsafe in this realm as more and more people discover the truth of this reality and the darkness that's been having control here for eons, from the beginning of our civilization. Which is another thing around the safety. So I was processing this with actually two different people today, how, for a long time, the collective consciousness was one that was very asleep and very embedded in the program. And so even if you were somebody that was aware and awake and awakening and shedding, unplugging from this false system and this and that, the general collective energy felt a certain way. We were used to it feeling solid, right? And now in the collective energy, it's there's all this loosening and popping off. And so the literal collective consciousness, the field, the soup that we're swimming in and sitting in energetically feels very different. It feels very unstable. So even if you're somebody that's not shocked by what's going on, we can be shocked by the way nothing in life feels the same, because all the people that were plugged in are now starting to unplug and to varying degrees, all over. And so it's a very different energetic soup, which of course, our nervous systems, which are assigned the role of keeping us safe, again, even if you have some level of conscious awareness, there's still all this ding, ding, ding. It's what I would talk about when the solar energy first started, or when the comets came into our realm, right? And a lot of our nervous systems were going off because we were behind the scenes detecting something that was coming in. So there's a lot of that behind the scenes detecting through our nervous system and our subconscious and our perception, which is always assessing for safety, right? So there's a difference in the field. That, not to mention, depending on what country you're in, if you're in Mexico and everything that just happened there, right? Or if you're visiting, if you happen to have been in Mexico, and then just, hearing all the things that are going on, and a lot of people feeling really unsafe. So on a lot of different levels that happening, this feeling of unsafety, and yet coming into this knowing, which is what I felt locked in with the four of us. And that's the other thing. 4 is a number of stability. It's a number and a symbol of stability. It's also always, or for the last 4 or 5 years since I've been going through really intense trials, it's come through, especially in doubles and triples, a number of I couldn't even, did you hear how my voice went away? That was weird. Safety, safety, security, and safety. And so, yeah, when we're in alignment, that we literally are not a match to lower vibrational frequencies and the creations of lower vibrational frequencies. And so we can, and I've known this for a really long time. It was a message that came in years ago when I first started becoming aware that things were going to get pretty intense for humanity and in our societies. I always knew that as long as I stayed connected to my higher self and I trusted my intuition, I would be guided, and I would know if I needed to move, or I would know if I needed to go somewhere or stock up on something or whatever, and I would know in the moment. And I decided I'm not going to do anything out of fear. I'm going to trust that as long as I listen and tune in and take action, I'm always talking about, right, the masculine and feminine working together, our polarities working together, that I'm going to be protected and guided through this also. That message came back again while we're here. We're at that point where there's a lot of things going on. And if you are, if somebody does, and also the knowing that if somebody does happen to be right in the hot seat of a natural disaster, or the breaking out of a war or whatever, that one, they'll be protected, or their soul signed up to experience that catastrophe for their own learning, learning and soul's evolution or karmic balancing or whatever. And so just this profound message of safety that the 4 of us were anchoring in, although we weren't conscious of it. It wasn't a plan, but there were all these pieces coming in. And so after we all kind of wrapped up, and I was contemplating what had just happened, I realized that I was stabilized in that higher frequency, in that field of safety. Again, when you're stabilized in that higher frequency, you're out of range of all of the lower dimensional mind control programs and the rippling out of the destruction of those programs, right? You have your inner clearing, you have your, it's like the destruction is kind of happening within you instead of around you. So I felt that, and I don't know if I know a lot of you that listen to these readings will resonate with that. And you may have felt something similar. So that was on Monday. And it matched up again with what Laura Hazel and others were saying in terms of a huge timeline shift. I think there were enough of us that stabilized in that field that something got secured, right? Something got secured, that level of safety, that level of, because again, everything kind of like, went up. And so there was this big wobble, it's like we had a certain energetic signature in the collective field. And so it's again, that like chemical reaction thing. You have one thing, you introduce something else, and then they react, and then there's a whole new configuration. It's like that new configuration that's been going on for, of course there's always new ones, but the just some of the things that have been going on have created a lot of noise, right? A lot of reaction, a big reaction, right? So the collective energy, it's kind of like in energy work, it's like when you do a lot of clearing or you introduce in a lot of new energy, the polarities will rebalance, everything in the system will reconfigure to provide a new platform for something else to grow. And so that's what I felt happened on Monday, along with others, and the confirmation of that there was the field had stabilized in a way that it's like, okay, okay, this is what we're working with now. How are we going to expand and grow and move forward from here until something else comes in to do that, because it's cyclical, right? So, I hope that made sense. I hope that made sense. A lot of what I've been also experiencing this week is a lot of newness coming in. So I'm noticing it. First, I was noticing it with people around me, support coming in, people that have been, and mostly it's people that have been through a lot of trials, right? A lot of trials, a lot of loss, a lot of initiations, a lot of sacrifice. Of course, these are the hell divers and the people that have gone in and really, really done that work. Like it's an energy of the meek shall inherit the earth, where if you just couldn't get a fucking break, for decades or your whole life, it's, and you might have had a lot of insecurity about yourself because, judged against societies, which of course is the whole false matrix programming control system, you would have been a loser or whatever, but really your soul was preserving you from engaging in something that was false anyway, because you were here to build this new energy. So a lot of us that are in that camp, I forgot to turn off my notifications, a lot of us that are in it left when I did that are in that camp, are starting to realize, we're seeing all the pieces of the table. Oh, this is why that had to happen, and this is why this couldn't happen, because I needed to keep my energy intact over here, and blah blah blah. Those people, I'm noticing for a lot of us, things are starting to roll. And so this one woman that I know, a dear sister of mine, she's had one trial after another, after another, after another. And I would love to tell the story because it's such a good story, but it's not my story to tell. But anyway, she's just finally had this whole windfall of good news. And we had just done a reading together like a week or two ago. And even though her situation looked really dire, there was just like so much positivity and like 9 of cups and all these rewards coming in. And I was just like, wow, I'm so glad, because I was nervous to read for you. I thought I was going to say bad things. And then just last night, she actually called me and she told me about all the wonderful things that are happening. And so it's like, wow, so if you are somebody that's been, I know a lot of us, we were talking about this in the last reading, just that exhaustion. Oh my gosh. It's like, I'm realizing I'm back, because that last reading, I was so tired and so, I just really, really, really in that energy. And now I'm all amped up, so, but yeah, I was in that heavy energy for about a week and a half or 2 weeks. And, it's slowly been shifting. But so anyway, not only are we, a lot of us, the hell diver types, they've really taken on a lot, have been really feeling that exhaustion, but also that exhaustion, like I was talking about last time, of eons, where we've been holding the line for a very long time. I'm feeling those rewards coming in. So if that's what I was going to say, if you're somebody in that camp and you're still kind of in the thick of it and being like, I don't know, it's like, I know a part of you is feeling it, that's what we were talking about before. You can feel it coming, but you don't know what it looks like, necessarily, that it's starting to trickle in for some of us. And I feel it will for all of us, maybe some of us are just, different speeds. We're popping off like popcorn, And so for me, I've been having this guidance I didn't realize it was guidance at first, to offer distance healing sessions. And so it's something that I've done over the years. I've been doing energy work for 16 years, and I would do distance healing for people if they asked me, but I never advertised myself as doing it because I don't really like it. I didn't like it because I would get really ungrounded. And I'm somebody that like really needs to stay grounded. That's why, like, if we're friends on Facebook and I'm always in nature, and it's like, cause I float away, so I've really had to learn how to be in my body, to be embodied. And that's the thing. We're here to bring this energy down and to be embodied. So that's why I like to work with the cards. So I have something to ground me, and I like to work. I'm not on the body, I'm off the body, but with the body there, because, it would ground me, it would ground the energy. And so lately I kept getting this nudge to do distance healings. And I was just like, no, I don't like that. I just in resistance. And then I started having, like, I would just be like, just whatever I was doing the dishes or something. And it would start floating in for me, where I would be like, imagining how I would do it. And I realized that I can just do it. I can just stay on the phone with the person. I had a block about that too, because it's like, I don't want technology there. And it's like, I can just program the phone to be aligned with the highest timeline, just have intention around that, bring in some shungite, and stay with the person on the phone, just do exactly like I do here, have the initial talking. And then I literally go into my room and act as if the body's there. And so, I was just having this daydream, and then it came up again the next day in meditation in a different way. Literally a half hour later, it was 11:11 on the 222 portal. And this woman writes to me and she's like, oh, so-and-so said that I could do a distance healing with you over the phone. And I was like, that's so funny, because I never told that person that I did that. And it's so interesting. She said over the phone, because most people that do distance healing, they don't do it over the phone. They do it in the quantum or in the astral, which is what I, try to stay grounded with. And then they commune later. And so it was just this whole setup, in the timing. And I was just like, yes, absolutely, we can do that. So I had that session. It went really well. It was exactly how I thought it would be. It was exactly as if she was here, and everything came through. It was just perfect and delightful, and in some ways even better because I don't know, there's just certain freedoms when anyway, there's trade-offs, but it was wonderful. So I've decided to start offering that service, which is really exciting to me because I'm not going to be limited to just the people in my town. I can really match up with more people who are really, really a match to this work. Because there's only so many people that, it's like what I do is it's just different. It's a little different, and I go really deep. And I'm thinking to do a video specifically on that, around just that, to share and post on my page. And I'll also pin it on my Facebook page. I'll also post it on YouTube for those of you that might catch it on YouTube. I'm not consistent enough in my days for YouTube to really think it's worth to pass me around, and I don't do the other hoops as well, so there aren't many that watch there. But anyway, yeah. So but just know that I am offering that, and I just feel like I've met so many people through Facebook that are a match to me into this work. So if any of you do feel interested in that, feel free to reach out, and I will sort of communicate more about that at some point. I'll probably wait until the other side of the eclipse, just because, we'll just see what happens with that. So anyway, thank you for listening to that. I know I kind of interrupted the reading for that, but it's exciting. And so that's sort of my version of this huge expansion. And it just, I felt really guided, which is beautiful. It's the only way that I'll do things, if things kind of nudge at me or fall in my lap, and there's synchronicities of people kind of inviting me to do that and to step forward. So a lot of big forward movement. And then other examples, like with my daughter getting support with some things that she's been struggling with. And so seeing these things starting to roll. So hopefully you start seeing those in your life as well. It really feels like we're moving. Oh my gosh. And so anyway, each day that we've moved out from that big timeline shift that I felt, again, about the stabilization of the sort of like results, that Six of Pentacles type of energy of aligning and choosing our divinity as that North Star compass, right? And the cosmic law rewards. It's cosmic law to have things flow in alignment, and just keeping with that more and more and more. So I am going to jump into the cards and see what else wants to come through. So we have this eclipse today. I'm filming this is Friday. So the eclipse is on Tuesday, where I'm at in New Mexico. The 3rd, March 3rd, and then, oh gosh, and then we have the time change if where you're at experiences that. So it's like things kind of opening up. We're moving into spring where I'm at, and then we have the equinox and the balancing. So it just feels like things are lightening. But let's read. Let's kind of read into. Oh, this is nice. We'll read into this kind of upcoming eclipse and the energies around that. Okay, so anyway, we get Sandpiper Spirit, be playful. We got this maybe a month or two ago, so it's interesting. It's coming up in a reading again. For a long time I never got this card, so here we have this playful energy. So there's that lightning, a symbol of things lightening as well. Also 5 and 1 equaling a 6, so there's that energy that I always talk about of embodiment. And what are we embodying? We're embodying our divinity, our unique soul signature, and playing with it out on the earth realm. So there it is, these new services or new activities or new habits or new ways of being that we're being guided to from our connection, that we're making the priority. So this is an interesting follow-up from last week. I don't remember what other cards came through other than that's what really stood out for me, was that Empress and the 2 Queen of Wands. So anyway, it feels like it's moving forward with that energy. Oh, yeah. Okay, so the 8 of Wands. So this is the card that they often call drinking out of the end of a fire hose. For me, it really comes through as an activation energy. It's crazy. She looks so much like my daughter. Wow. And just really hitting me like that in this moment. Okay, so there's May pulling back her arrow, which she does. She's a hell diver. Oh my gosh. And so that symbolism as well. If you are somebody that's had a lot of lack and loss, and your soul wouldn't let you have anything, any success, any partners, anything, because they knew if you had it that you wouldn't go as far as you needed to go. So you pulled back as far as you can. There's that release of this arrow that's starting. So that's what we were talking about last time, was that's right. We've been doing this for eons, right? And we're tired. We crossed the finish line. The missions are about to change. So here's another indicator of that, things moving forward. Also the 8 of Wands, it's an old deck, so you can't see that, but it's the Eight of Wands. But a lot of energy and activation energy. So it's like that as well, where there's an up leveling going on. I saw this in my session today, where it was like the choices that she was making to align were not only, because she was doing a lot of lineage work, they weren't only around clearing her lineage, they were around, because it's interesting, you know, it's like we take on the negative patterns through our lineage. We also take on the gifts through our lineage. So when we're doing lineage work, we're not only accessing, clearing the distorted energies, accessing the positive ones, we're also creating a new template and a new energy for our lineage, you know, for what's beyond us, but also what's behind us, right? We're changing the literal energetic template. So it's like we're taking it farther, we're taking it next level. And of course, that's what's going on for humanity right now. We're evolving into a new template that we've been creating through our choices and through our alignment and through a lot of the trials that we've gone through, where we've been crunched in really dark ways that you would never wish upon yourself or anyone. And yet you find this divinity, you find your true alignment and soul signature in a really deep way, which is what we were talking about 2 readings ago with the energy around a lot of the, I've been saying disclosures, because for me, disclosure is things that were hidden coming on light, but I realize that word has become about, you know, ETs, right? And galactic races and stuff like that. But when I say it, I mean it as anything that's been hidden coming up, right? So a lot of that in our society, but also within ourselves, coming up. But the more that we can see and sit with our darkness and the darkness, the deeper we can go into it, the more we're catapulted into our light, right? And the more we're catapulted into our light, the more we activate and we start to reach and tap into energies that humanity hasn't tapped into before. Why? Because there's always been so much hidden. There's been so much hidden in this realm, in the world scene, in the political scene, but also within ourselves. Within ourselves, we couldn't see. And now that all this is coming up, it's coming up within ourselves as well. Therefore, it's giving us more access to a whole other level. So what we're bringing forward in our play, through our play and our expressions of ourselves is a whole next level than what we've experienced expressing through us before, because it wasn't possible before. So again, a lot of the restructuring that's been going on in the collective energy. So the collective soup is different. We're acclimating to it, and we're evolving from a new level of collective consciousness. So we're receiving more of ourselves. That last reading, getting ourselves back. We have more of ourselves back. That's that activation energy. More. We have more of ourselves than we've ever had before. And a lot of that is because of the catalyst of the dark. So again, everything is God. Everything is all that is. So we can, we can be mad at the darkness that's happening. We can be disgusted by it, but it has its place here. And at this point in human evolution, its place is to catalyze us into remembering that which has been hidden, which is giving us more of ourselves. And it's just kind of how it goes at this point in human evolution, at this point in the cycle of the ages. Cycles, right? And it all belongs, it all has its place, so there's something also about that inclusivity, the inclusivity and a lot of people, so this is kind of important to talk about too. A lot of people, and I've been running into people and spending time with people recently, and it's been sort of a trial and a lesson for me, where people are afraid of the dark. They're afraid of it. They set intentions so they don't have to engage with it or interface with it, and they might be really masterful in their light arena, but without the incorporation of the shadow elements, it's not this full activation, right? You have a portion, but unless you have the whole, unless you have all of it, you don't have the whole. You only have a portion. And if you're okay with that, okay. But, the way human evolution is going, where everything's coming on the table, it's like you're going to be kind of pressured and crunched to include all of it in. Those that are sort of only representing a picture of it, which isn't the whole thing, which has just in its inherent nature, it's a falsehood, because it's not, there's a whole other bandwidth that's not included in it, right? And of course, we're always expanded. This is the expansion, but we're talking about the things that were hidden, right? Having all those things come online and be incorporated is how we're evolving into these next versions of ourselves, these next versions of what it is to be human, okay? So a lot of us bringing that integration and that coding online, but you can't really bring it online unless you cannot bring it online unless you've gone in and integrated it, right? Unless you've done that work and you've gone through those initiations and you have those codes active in your field, right? And that's what's going to be, that's where the red carpets are now for those people that never fit in, that could never get it right, that type of thing. The meek shall inherit the earth. That's what I'm seeing. Everybody that I'm talking to that's having great expansion is in that group, and that would be the collective pretty much that I'm reading for. So yeah, so okay, let's keep going here. All right, so interesting. So we get the King of Wands. So the King of Wands is a leader. You know, he's a leader, and he's a leader through his spirit and his alignment. So he's a perfect one to have this. He's also the counterpart of the Queen of Wands. So he's the one when you know, she kind of broadcasts her intact circuitry of self-alignment, that he comes and says, yes, let's bring that forward. You know, they're a pair. Her magnetism, her aligning with herself and her wisdom, and him honoring that and bringing that forward. So that beautiful divine masculine energy that takes action on, it's interesting. I feel like the camera is catching the cards better today, which is really interesting. I'm feeling a symbol with my eyes and the cameras, because I have this new vision with this mono vision, which is a symbol for me about seeing both near and far and being able to switch easily between dimensional perspectives, where you don't get like super myopic and all you can see is the drama in front of you, but you also don't like extract into like, you know, where you completely oblivious from it, where you just want to, you know, like what I was talking about, the people that only want the light, right? Where you can do both. So it's funny that this is showing up. I remember the last reading, it just wasn't focusing well. So, you know, always reading the symbols. I think that spirit is always talking to us and always paying attention. So anyway, yeah, the King of Wands taking action on that guidance, being the true leader. So that's sort of what I was just talking about. I realize that's what it's confirming, because the true leaders are the ones that have the light and the dark integrated, that have gone through those initiations, that have allowed themselves to be destroyed over and over and over again, because their souls chose up for that. Otherwise, there's false presentation, there's false light, there's an inaccurate picture of reality, an unwhole picture of reality, and these being the new leaders of the new earth, you know, and that's us, you know, that's us, those of you that resonate with these videos, and just knowing that all of the because there's a lot of insecurity and low self-esteem that can come, because you can be like, I'm such a fuck up, you know, like I went through, like, why can't I just get it right, you know, and I've gone through all these trials, and yet it was part of your mission and part of your service and part of how you were understanding duality, and it was actually your mastery and your success and not your failure. And so a lot of us realizing that, and so that's what I was talking about a few readings ago with that true currency. The true currency is self-worth and self-love. And we attract in our abundance, that Queen of Wands energy. We attract it in when we know our worth and when we know who we are. So that's a lot of what's happening. And a lot of that is happening in relation to the disclosure of all these things, because you're like, I knew it. You know, I knew it. I was outcast. I was fired. I was, you know, all this time I've been holding the line, and now I'm being vindicated and validated, and, you know, people are even apologizing, and, you know, this type of thing. But it's just like the universe is just kind of giving you a hug and being like, you did so good. You held in there all that time, you know, which is kind of what that last reading was. Although I said it through, like, you know, my head on a pillow, being so exhausted. There is still some of that exhaustion that I know a lot of us are feeling. I still feel it too, but less of it. I think because I'm pretty excited because of and I'm like that too. Like before things started rolling in for me, if somebody that I'm close to or that's in my hologram starts having good news, I know it's for all of us, because we're a collective. We share an oversoul. You know, we're here on mission together. So if it's happening for one of us or some of us, it's happening for all of us. It's starting to roll. It's a precursor, you know, for if it hasn't been rolling for you in that way. So I've just been really excited, like hearing the good news of so many people around me and people that really, really earned it, you know, really, really, really earned it. Yeah, because the old way is the hustle and the presentation and the, you know, wording things and the marketing and, you know, all these things. And a lot of people can be really successful that way. But yeah, it's different. You know, it's like this kind of energy, this kind of leader is different. It's somebody that's leading from their magnetism and their integration and their deep sacrifice on this planet for eons of time. So, And yeah, there's nuances, you know, there's nuances. I don't, yeah, but I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay. So, oh, next we get the Ace of Swords. So this has been coming up in readings a lot recently too. In fact, in one reading, for personal readings, it came up twice. So this really strong message, I feel, that's wanting to come through around the divine timing, because the Ace of Swords is sort of that, like the synchronicity, you know, where like things are moving and the gears of the clock are coming, but waiting for like the right timing there, the right timing. And reading the signs, you know, it's like me with the distance healing, you know, where it like came in once and I was like, okay, you know, and then maybe a couple months later it came in again. I was just like, you know, and then all of a sudden it was like boom, 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 with the synchronicities, and then again, taking action on that. But just this message and reminder that these things will start to flow for you if they're not already. It's in the energy, it's how things work. And it's like, if it's not happening yet, it's just because it's not time yet. Maybe there needs to be a little bit more compression, or a little bit more clearing, or a little bit more clarity, getting, you know, we got the puzzle, you know, it's like that analogy of like a lot of the pieces were under the table, and some of them might have been stuck under the rug, and some of them might have been like behind that dresser, but you happen to move that dresser because, you know, you got a new one or something, and you found that like one freaking piece, you know, and so now all of them are on the table, and maybe you have the edges, you know, you got the edges, but you got to wait till you get that chair over here, you know, and once you get that chair, then this thing can come in, right? It's like the gears of the clock, whatever the pieces are, but that energy being really communicated through these cards, that it's here for us. And also with this, with the fire hose, and a lot of energy coming in, the activation energy, there's a lot in the field that I know you can feel. I know that we're feeling it, even if we're not seeing it yet, but I feel like there's more of the seeing it, or more of the feeling it, right? Okay. So let's do this. Where are we at? 31 minutes. What do we get? Oh, interesting. Okay. So we get transmutation and Archangel Michael, and interesting. So okay. Yeah. So anyway, transmutation. So that's kind of what I was talking about, you know, where you're waiting for that last puzzle piece to come, or you're waiting for this, you got to get that chair, you know, there's more that we have to do, more of this transmutation, right? So there might be things rolling and good things coming in, but we're also still in this energy, you know. I'm a little jazzed up right now because I've been having a lot of this, but this is also a reminder to me, like, you're not done, you know, like you got to keep going this, like you ate the poison, you got to, you know, you got to transmute it. You got to transmute it so it doesn't kill you. You got to go the whole way. And yes, we're being given a little bit of perks and breaks. And have you been finding that? Like I would find, like, I'd have all these realizations, you know, or I'd transmute something and I'd be like, wow, you know, and my body would feel light and I'd feel like I was on the other side. And the next morning I'd wake up and I'd be like depressed and like exhausted, and I'd have to like drag myself out of bed, you know, and that kind of thing. And yet, so it's both. It's just that reminder that there's both going on in these energies right now. Hold on. Okay, so I'm going to go down below and kind of read some cards on top of each other here. Let's see what we get. Oops, I put the deck upside down. Okay. Okay, so the Hangman. So there is that kind of like, we're stuck in it. You know, you're stuck in a certain energy, you're stuck in a certain place, in a certain configuration, to gain a new perspective, to gain enlightenment, to shift the way you view things. So this energy definitely being here, coming out underneath, be playful. So that's, again, it's that contradiction. It's like, well, you know, it's like this sort of like stuck, that can be that kind of like depressed energy. But at the same time, there's this knowing of what it's about. There's this knowing of what it's for, you know, that can bring this feeling of sort of like glee or playfulness, even though I don't think we were in this energy, you know, a few days ago, or definitely not a week ago, but it's showing up in this reading now. Like if we're still in this energy of transmuting, that there's a bit more playfulness coming in, a bit more lightness, a bit more of this illumination coming in, or starting to come in. Okay. Oops. All right, so what do we get? Oh, deep quiet meditation and stillness, right? So those deep dives and taking the time, it's sort of another paradox. Okay, so yeah, and we know that there's a lot of contradicting energies, and where we feel one thing and then it switches and you feel another. So here's this drinking out of the fire hose, activation energy, really strong, really can be really exciting and or overwhelming, in contrast to this deep quiet and meditation, meditation and stillness. So a lot of polarity here. And this is also sort of a meditative energy where you're stuck in one place and you kind of just have to be with whatever you're doing. Whereas this, if you've ever seen a sandpiper run along the beach, they're just, and they just have a lot of movement and they're very playful, which is why this card is, is titled that with this energy, right? So, okay, so far it's showing us the bit of a paradox, bit of contradiction in the energies. Hold on, just one. Okay, let's see what we get. Oh, okay. So 7 of Pentacles. So being in process. Yeah, we're in the midst of a process. So it's just like that. It's like there might be this energy. This whole top row in the beginning, was playful, activation energy, leading from your divinity, being the leader, bringing in the new earth, the synchronicities. And then it kind of took a turn, took us into this, but there's still this transformation, we're still, or transmutation, we're still kind of tied up in this energy, be quiet, get still, be with the process. It's almost, and that kind of reminds me of where I was like, well, I might do this video, but it's like, nah, I'm going to wait until after the eclipse. Like, yeah, I'm feeling the guidance, but we're still in a process, and that's what this is. We're still in a process. So don't, you can run around and have some fun, but just know that we're not done yet. And again, you don't want to miss it. You don't want to spiritually bypass or, dopamine bypass the bottom levels, because the very bottom, and it's kind of like what I was saying 2 readings ago, where it's like, can you see a little more? Can you take in a little more of your or the world's darkness? The world's darkness is going to kick up your own. You might not identify it as your own, but it's like we're gathering in those lost parts. We're gathering in the parts that we couldn't see, because in bringing those up, we're bringing up more of us. So there's the polarity where, again, the pulling back of the arrow. We're pulling back of the arrow. We're pulling back the arrow when we do this deep shadow work, this deep transmuting. And in order to transmute, you have to sit with it. So we're in the process of doing that. But that's the exact thing that's bringing us. It's funny how this message is coming through. It's the exact thing that's bringing us into our true roles. But we gotta go the whole way. I mean, if we want to bypass, and we don't want to look, if you are somebody like that, you're probably not watching these readings, because I talk a lot about darkness and weird things and demons and intense things, and you probably wouldn't be very resonant with these readings if you weren't somewhat comfortable or familiar in this life or others with the deeper, darker elements that have been cast aside. So yes, we're still in the process of retrieving these parts. Why? Because the world is as well. The world is still in that process. So we might be showing up as leaders of the new earth, but we're still in touch with these deeper movements as being fractals of it. In order to truly hold space for a world that's awakening, we need to, again, what was the analogy that I was talking about? Where we're not, the myopia, that with the eyesight, where we're not just focusing on what's ahead, but we're also not, just being fully in this, it's like we got to stay connected. We've got to be very interdimensional right now, and we're navigating through dimensional frequencies. Sometimes the highest service is to stay in these higher realms and to hold that space. Sometimes it's to dive in and do that transmutation work and stare Satan in the eyes one more time, because we know how to do it, right? We know how to do it. So that's beautiful. We are unplugging the roots on these fear programs, on these mind control programs, by being able to go in and see them. So you might remember that reading where I was talking about that sort of like rogue signal of some of the flu, that was coming in, and that ability to see the energetic frequency and the disturbance and the falsehood of it, and to say, I see you, and how that just, I see you and I don't believe you, whether it's something like that, like a bioweapon type of energy, or whether it's just somebody that has a false game going on where you see through it and you don't allow it to throw you into insecurity, that type of thing. Or if it's, something that you're, that kind of thing, something that's duping you in some way, that's presenting in a way that's meant to fragment you know, not that a lot of people are just running these programs. They just don't know it. They haven't unplugged yet. So those of us unplugging, for those that aren't able to or aren't willing to and didn't sign up to, you know, they're holding a different role. But again, talking to the ones who are unplugging these fear programs, we know that they're lies. We know that they're mind control. We know that they're not true. And so we're able to sit in them and have them around us. Again, eat that poison and then hold steady in our divinity with this one that's strong, that listens, that just sits there. You know, you have no power over me. You have no power over me. You know, there's David Bowie again, and the illusion crumbles, right? The illusion crumbles. And again, we're unplugging so that we can be a clear channel and transmission of a truly integrated and unified energy that sat with the darkness, and also so that we can change the collective consciousness in the field, because one person that does that unplugging, that breaks free of those programs and is able to hold space for others strongly with conviction, because you've done it within yourself, changes it's a rippling effect. So there's that activation energy as well. It's activation. You know, you're passing it on to others. You're activating them through your alignment, through the transmissions, the codes that you have through your energy system, through your body, through all of the things that you've done that have made you feel like maybe you weren't doing a good job, but you were, and now you have those codes, and you are that new earth leader. Okay. So, but still needing to do that work of unplugging the whole way. Yeah. For humanity, both for your service and so that you're a true, pure transmission of that wholeness, and that integration and the freedom, of not leaking your energy, not allowing things to feed on you, not falling into the manipulations and seductions and false presentations of the matrix energy, and knowing I've been really guided to go back in. I was talking about this 2 readings ago, where it was 2015, where I was really learning a lot, coming a lot upon the darkness in our realm. And I was talking about how it was very kind of comforting to me because it made me feel better about my own weird life. But I climbed out and I started focusing on higher alignment and divinity and, just tools and how to, all the things. And now I'm being called to go back in, and I'm listening to these. I listened to a David Icke who I'd never listened to before. But now it's like, well, shit, this guy's been researching this stuff for 36 years. He's the one. I listened to a testimonial of somebody who was involved in the rituals and the satanic ritual abuse. It was 2.5 hours long. I listened to the entire thing. A lot of it I already knew, but there were other things that were, that I didn't know. I didn't know quite within. It's again the puzzle thing where it's like all on the table all at once, and it's like you see this whole picture. And then I listened to this man. You might have stated on my page, somebody tagged me on the video, but it was the whole history of the Khazarian mafia from the very beginning, from Sumerian times, and then before that as well. That's why I was kind of pausing on this, because there was a lot of this kind of energy, in the distorted way. A lot of information. Oh my God! Let me know if you want to watch that video. I can send it to you. You can private message me, and I can send it to you. Just the whole history. I listened to like 5 hours of it, and it's just that full disclosure. We're seeing the roots of all these things and how it reaches out everywhere, and it just helps you unplug because you see what it is, and it helps you not be fooled by little places you might have been like, well, where you kind of gaslight yourself, or all the ways that we might not. So here it is again. We might not listen to our inner knowing. Can be helpful. That's what I've been really guided to do, and it's been really profound for me. But I know we're all coming upon what we need to come upon when we need to come upon it. But again, the seeing of it is part of our liberation and how we're unplugging from these programs when we see what we've been feeding our energy to, right? And even, again, those of us that have been working on unplugging for a long time, there's even more liberation possible now. And it's like, let's grab it, let's grab it. So here it is again. It's like there's more to do down here because there's even more activation and template building in the new polarity, right? Further back you go, further forward you get to go. So, okay. So let's, I'll do 2 more cards, finish out this, this row here. We're at 44 minutes, 144. Okay. Spirit. Oh, Spirit of the River. I haven't gotten this card yet. Spirit of the River, movement toward adventure, and it's a number 5. Change. Okay. So I love that, like, we're in this row of, like, well, we started up here, you know, where it's like, well, hold on, you know, it's like, you're not out yet. You need to go further. But then there's this beautiful reminder of, like, because, you know, here's the spirit of the river. It's like we're flowing with the river. We're flowing with evolution. Right now, evolution is disclosing things, right? It's pulling up all these roots and being like, see, you know, see, look at it, you know, look at it. And that's what life, that's what where we're at in human evolution is asking of us. But again, it's all to release. You know, if our energy's been dammed up and siphoned off over here, and, you know, and then you're abandoning yourself and feeling you're wrong because of this, that, and the next thing. And that's how it is in energy sessions as well. It's like you can see the patterns of distortion, and where, like, today there was just this energy just looping and looping and looping and looping and looping and looping, and then that looping was like affecting like an organ, you know, and then it was like when it came into alignment, it was like the river, you know, where it's like, oh, you get yourself back, you get your own energy back, you get your own freaking energy back, which is what we were talking about last time. But now it's really in the whole, even though that was the title of the reading, the whole reading was about just being exhausted because, you know, you've been putting in the work for so long. But here it starts flooding in, you start flooding back in, and all of this being and then again, movement towards adventure. So there's that message as well of these new and it's coming out underneath the Ace of Swords, which is the synchronicity, where it's like, yes, so we're coming back around to this message. It's like a change is happening, you know, the gears of the clock are clicking in, you know, you have this puzzle piece, you've done enough of this, you know, you've hung up, you've willingly surrendered. This is also a card of surrender. So surrendering to whatever is going on in your life and in the world, again, and knowing that it's all for the sake of breaking things loose, breaking the hold that these programs have had on us, so that we can flow, But also the reminder again of that there is support in this, and there is that divine timing and the synchronicity that's going to come in as part of this flow, right? Yeah. So it's interesting. A lot of this energy of, you know, flooding in, right? Flooding in, receiving a lot of guidance and perfectly divinely timed synchronicity towards our new adventures. This is a nice reading. I'm enjoying this. And it is the energy that I'm feeling. So I hope you're feeling it too. And if you're not yet, I hope that you can get the transmission of it through this reading, because I'm really in this energy. And again, I'm reading, you know, my very nature is, you know, it's like, if it's happening to me, it's collective, right? That kind of thing. And that's what I do. I read collective energies and have my whole life, you know, without knowing it. And so this is relevant to you too, even if you're not feeling it. That message really wanting to come through. Okay, the Holy Mountain. I love this card, and it's a number 7. 7 coming through for me as that Christ consciousness, as that this kind of thing, like that new energy that's coming through us, the new expression of who we are, because we're gaining more of ourselves, it's like an apex energy, being at the apex of ourselves. So there's that getting ourselves back again, this type of energy. But it's almost like we're more than we knew. We're going to discover, I'm going to sneeze. We're going to discover our juniper, our junipers are going off. It's kind of intense. So there's allergies on top of everything else, but we're going to discover that we're more. So this is like a channel. This is coming through for me too, and I'm happy to hear this. We're going to discover that we're more than we ever knew, because we're getting a higher version of ourselves. We're getting more than we've ever been able to receive before, because it wasn't possible when things were locked away. Now things aren't locked away. And as a fractal of that, we're receiving more of ourselves that we didn't know. Even if we don't realize it, it's not like super cognizant, things are still coming online. A lot of inner child healing, a lot of, like I was talking about last time, that sort of like sobbing of like, you are always okay. You're always okay. You know, and that ability to parent our child. One of my soul sisters today had this like beautiful realization. and I'll share it with you. It's her realization, but it's so resonant where there's so much right now about the children and about nobody knowing what was happening to the children. It was all underground and it was suppressed, and that being related to us rejecting our inner child. There's so much around the child, and the fractal of that is our inner child healing. So thank you for that to my sister. And I know it should be totally into me sharing that, her realization with everyone. And so, and again, because I've been going through it too, this major inner child healing thing, and even like the triggers around bringing forward a new service. I just spent like the last 5 weeks, like in this sort of like knowing your true currency, well, what does that mean? Is like you bump up against all the places where you feel you're not okay, and a lot of us doing that work and turning around and being like, oh, I see that pattern from when you were young. We're gonna reparent you now. We're gonna let you know, like, I see you, I value you, you're here, the world needs you, all the things that we may have needed to hear, but we couldn't even hear the cries of that inner child who had those feelings. A lot of us didn't even allow ourselves to feel what we felt. It was all subconscious and unconscious, and we were disassociated, and yet the neural pathways of those things were still lodged in, even if we had moved into more of our own energy and we're living from, our true alignment, and, we're honoring ourselves. It's like these roots still had to be unplugged. So a lot of what's going on right now, helping to do that as well, another level of that, connecting to the inner child and the inner child healing and the healing, the listening, the hearing, all the testimonials, all the children who grew up that told their story and nobody would listen, and people listening now, they're listening to the pain of the child, listening to the pain of the child. We're listening to the pain of our inner child, letting her out of that box, that lock, that cage that she's been held in here. She's been held in, and telling her she's worthy and she belongs here. And then things, and then we get, so much more of ourselves back, that's the work. And so, but happening on levels that weren't possible before, and very, very connected to some of the darkest of things that we're transmuting and that we're facing and that humanity's facing. And even though not everybody's facing it, not everybody knows, there's still some remnant in their lives that's a fractal of it that they're transmuting at this time. And so knowing that everybody's working with this energy, even if they're not working with it as consciously or in the same way that you are, it's a collective movement, and nobody is free of it. Nobody's free of it. It's going to come to them in some way or another. And again, playing your role, if you are a hell diver and you are going down to the roots, knowing that you're holding space for humanity. You've always been doing it for humanity. You've been doing it for this time. You are a leader, even if your leadership is not visible, even if that's underground and unseen. You're working on those levels. Your energetic signature is still transmuting out into the field and out into the collective consciousness. So you are a builder and a leader of the new earth energy, and for all of your hard work. And these are like your badges. Every time you went down underground and you had some kind of trial where you felt like you were crazy or gonna die, or like, oh my gosh, and everybody else is just kind of running around doing the thing, and you're like, holy shit. And then you did another one. This was a really big one, and then another one and another one. All these times you got a beautiful badge. These are the codes in your energy field. That even if people don't know them, even if you don't know them, they're there because you earned them. People can feel them, and there's a magnetism to that. That's that Queen of Wands, the counterpart of the King of Wands, that pulls things in. It's pulling in your service, it's not pulling it in, it's transmitting it. It's offering it. It is your service. Those badges are in your field, and everything that you do, going to the grocery store, smiling at the person, or even not smiling at the person, like guarding your energy because there's a lot of weird, funky junk stuff going on, but you're broadcasting a truth code while everybody else might be falling for that thing, whatever it is, right? Whatever that false light, you know what I mean? It's like your codes are out and they're doing their work no matter what you're doing, because it's who you are. It's an extension of who you are and what you've done in this body or in other bodies throughout your soul's journey. And that's your service. And just to, commend you for that, because you're apex. You're top of the mountain. You're top of the mountain, and not in a hierarchical way. You're the top of your mountain. You're the top of your mountain. You didn't settle for here. You had to go down to get up, and you did. You didn't avoid the darkness. You didn't avoid it. So this is who this reading is for, usually, right? You didn't avoid it. You didn't have it. And so you have your your holy mountain, which is all you can do, is what's possible within you. But again, the codes that you transmit because of that, and what you pull in, this adventure, this service, and the co-creation with others, the co-creation with your spirit, with your guides, with your higher self, but with the others who are on this, on their own personal apex mountain in their fullness. That's a beautiful reading. That was really encouraging and exciting. So I hope that was helpful to you. And I just pray that whoever, I intend and pray that whoever this will benefit finds this reading at the time that they need to find it. And thank you so much for being here. And by here, I mean here, by being here and doing that work, that unacknowledged work, and just, it's acknowledged. That's what I like to acknowledge in these readings. Now that I'm being guided to do distance healings where I know that my service can reach beyond my town, I feel like I can, it's almost like liberated me to speak more freely and to speak to the collective that I'm really a match to and that would be drawn to working with me, rather than, because there's a lot of, like my channel is on my flyers and cards in town, but it's kind of like, I don't know how many people resonate with these. I don't know, maybe it's more than I think. I don't know, I don't know. I think people watch in town, I'm not sure. Anyway, but now it's like, it's like I'm being told to just fully be me, again, to fully put myself, the largest version of myself out there, and knowing that, yeah, there's new adventures in doing that. Yeah, something's been unlocked, something's been unplugged. So, and that is my version of this energy, this collective energy that we're moving into. So it feels really exciting around the, for the eclipse. I know lunar eclipses are a lot about endings and things being torn away, but this reading is just coming through a little differently. It's coming through more as that evolved new expression on the other side of the deep inner work. So presenting differently for everyone, and of course translate as you need to, or as applies to. Also, I forgot to say, there's an 11 in here, which is that portal energy. So again, through that deep inward self, we're going through a portal into more. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. Thank you for listening, and thank you again for being here, for all the work that you do, and for communing in these readings in consciousness, our soul family and our tribe of people that understand. So thank you. And please reach out if you would like to experience a distance healing with me. And eventually I probably will get up that video that explains more, unless coyote medicine comes in, and I don't feel the energy for it anymore, but I definitely am going to offer these sessions. So feel free to reach out. All right. Much love to you, and I'll see you next time if I do. Okay.